Good evening and welcome back to our question and answer series for anash.org. A question: is it allowed to play with bubbles on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Children are allowed to play with them, but adults should not use them and play with them. The problem of using bubbles is because it gets sod, and the sods is considered noilet because before it was water and it changed to sod. So therefore, for an adult, should not play with bubbles because it has a problem of noilet. But for children, you could be lenient that they could play with it, but after all, the salt is not long lasting. So therefore, since it's not a thing which is lekiyim, it doesn't stay, it's not long lasting, so therefore you could let a child play with it. Question: if a person answers by mistake in the middle of the baltekaya, is making the brachas on the shofar, and he answered Baruchi Vurich Shemoy, is he yoytze that bracha or not? This question is a question which is negeya constantly when a person is yoytze a bracha from someone else, Kiddush, Havdalah, Shofar, Megillah. The halacha is that you should not answer Baruchi Vurich Shemoy, because it might be a chashash hefsek by some poskim. So therefore, we don't answer Baruchi Vurich Shemoy on that bracha. But by the evet, if a person did answer Baruchi Vurich Shemoy, if he listened the whole time to every word which the baltekaya said, that means he heard all the words of the bracha which the baltekaya said, then by the evet he was yoytze. Because by the evet we say it's not a hefsek. But if he didn't hear all the words of the bracha, then he wasn't yoytze. Because in order to be yoytze a bracha for someone else, you have to listen to the whole bracha, every word. So in such a case, then he should right away make by himself the bracha fast, because you can make yourself the bracha. It is only we listen to the baltekaya and we is yoytze. But if a person said Baruchi Vurich Shemoy and he didn't hear the whole word, he should say it by himself. And this will also apply by other times. For instance, a person said Baruchi Vurich Shemoy when the Bal Koire says the bracha on Mikra Megillah or on other brachas. Always, if you didn't hear a word or two from the baltekaya or from the Bal Koire, you should right away make a bracha in order to finish before he starts doing the mitzvah. That means before he starts blowing the shofar. Question: is there a problem with using an oven on Yom Tov that was left on beforehand? Now it's very difficult to answer such a question because I don't know exactly which oven you refer to. Today's day there's a lot of kinds of ovens, and the ovens and the refrigerators and the appliances gets more and more sophisticated, and the more and more it gets sophisticated, more and more it gets problematic halachically. So therefore it's very hard to answer this question. But if a person has a regular old-fashioned oven at home, not a commercial oven, a regular oven, and it's not highly sophisticated, and it was turned on before Yom Tov, you could use it on Yom Tov. You cannot put it on Yom Tov, but if it was on before Yom Tov, you could use it on Yom Tov. But again, you have to make sure it's not the sophisticated ovens, because some ovens, once you open the door, it shuts down, and when you close it, you open it, it turns on again. A regular old-fashioned oven, which was open before Yom Tov, you could use. Other ones you have to see in the manual how it works, and it's not necessarily you have, you could open it on Yom Tov. Question. I'm going to Rosh Hashanah to מבצע in a humongous building, a huge building with a lot of Jewish residents over there. I would like to blow shofar for all of the people which live there, and it's not possible to blow all 30 koilas of tkiya shofar in order to accomplish to go to everybody. And some people are not interested to listen to all 30 koilas. Is there any option b'shas adchak that we don't need to blow all 30 koilas, or there's no option? This is a very common question which we get constantly from people who go from Mitzvah to hospitals, old age homes, big buildings, or even some people which they are not ready to listen to all the 30 koilas. Is there any way that we could blow for them that they should be yoitze, the mitzvahs esed daraisa of tkiya shofar? Now, Harav Farkash from Yerushalayim, the Baal Mechaber Sefer Shabbos Ke'alocha, once wrote regarding this question, and he gave a very interesting solution which we could use b'shas adchak. He says, what you should do, you should blow 3 times tashrat, tekiyu, shavorim, teriyu, tekiyu. 30 koilas means you blow 3 times tashrat, 3 times tashat, and 3 times tarat. That means 3 times shvurim teriyu, 3 times shvurim, and 3 times teruah. Why is it? Because in the Torah says that you should blow a teriyu. 3 times we see in the Torah that you should blow a teriyu. That means you have to blow 3 times a teruah. Now, Chazal said that every teruah has to have beforehand a tekiyu, and afterwards a tekiyu. Has to be before the teruah, has to be a tekiyu before, a tekiyu afterwards, and the middle has to be the teriyu. Now we have a suffix in Chazal already. We have a suffix. What is a teruah? If a teruah is like what we make a shvorim, or it's like we make a teruah, the short ones, or maybe it is like we make together both a shvorim and teriyu together. That's a suffix. So since it is a daraisa, we have a suffix. We have to make all 3. We blow 3 times tashat, that means tekiyu, shvurim teriyu, tekiyu. That means the middle will be a shvurim and teriyu, and that's called tashrat, because maybe the teruah is a shvurim teruah together. Then we blow 3 times tashat, the middle is only a shvurim, without a teruah. And it has to be 3 times again tashrat. Tashat only with the shvorim, because if you make tashrat, if the teruah which you make after the shvorim, it's a hefsik between the shvorim and the tekiya afterwards. So therefore we make 3 times again tashat. Then we make another 3 times tarat, the teruah in the middle, without the shvorim. Again, because of the same reason. If you will make a shvorim teriyu, and menatoire, the teriyu is only our teriyu, which is the short ones. So there's a hefsik between the teruah and the tekiya beforehand. And it cannot be any hefsik before the teruah. It cannot be a hefsik before the teruah. It cannot be a hefsik after the teruah. That means a tekiya has to be before the teruah and right after the teruah. So therefore, in order to go out of the suffix, we blow 30 koilas, 3 times tashrat, 3 times tashat, and 3 times tarat. Now that's only if you blow any coil which is l'shem mitzvah. If a person blow something in between, not l'shem mitzvah, it's not a problem. For instance, a person makes a tekiu, a shvorim, and then he makes any other call, but not l'shem mitzvah. He doesn't want it to be l'shem mitzvah. It is not a hefsik between the tekiyas. Only when you do something l'shem mitzvah, then it's a hefsik. So he gives the solution like this: if a person does not want to listen to all koilas, all 30 koilas, you should blow 3 times tashrat, tekiyu, shvurim, triyu, and tekiyu 3 times. But you have to make sure that you take a breath between the shvurim and triyu. Then he makes a tanai, he makes a condition that if a pitoira, the teruah means our shvorim, so the teruah which I'm going to blow after the shvorim, it is not l'shem mitzvah, it's only l'shem playing, only l'shem trumpet. So therefore, the teruah which is after the shvorim is not a hefsek between the shvorim and the tekiyu afterwards. And then in the Tnai is also then that if the teruah is our teruah, not our shvorim, so then the shvorim which I blow, that's l'shem trumpet, and the rest is l'shem mitzvah. And if a pitoira, the teruah is a shvorim triyu together, then the shvorim triyu both should be l'shem mitzvah. That means you make a condition at Tnai that whatever is not according to the Torah part of the teruah, that koilos should be not l'shem mitzvah, el l'shem playing with a trumpet. So therefore, if it's such a case, it's not a hefsik, because a hefsik is only when you do it l'shem mitzvah. But you have to make and take a breath between the shvorim and triyu, because if you make shvorim triyu b'neshima achas without taking a breath, you cannot say and divide this and say half was l'shem mitzvah and half was not l'shem mitzvah. So this is the solution. Again, you blow 3 times tashrat, that means tekiyu, shvurim, triyu, tekiyu, and you make a hefsik neshima, you take a breath between all of them, between the tekiyu, between the shvurim, between the triyu, you take a breath, and you make it nai that whatever is not a pitoira, chaylik, part of the teruah, then it should not be l'shem mitzvah, it should be l'shem trumpet, and then in such a case, that person is yoytze min ha-toira, the mitzvah's esa fin tkiya shofar. But this you do only in a place, in a time, in a situation that is a real shasat chag. If you have the time, you should do all 30 koilas. Question, follow-up. Last week you spoke about the prosbul. If it's allowed that the dayanim should be relatives, kroivim. And the question now is, a person who writes a prosbul and he has 2 witnesses, Adam, are they permitted to be kroivim? And the answer is yes, they could be kroivim. They could also be psilim la'aidas, they could be women, because the Adam which write on the prosbul are not basically the thing which gives you the power to take the loan, to take the halvua back. You could take back the loan because you gave him a halvua, and the loive is maskim, he agrees that he gave you a loan. The item is only a gilidas, that a kiyim adover, that you made a prismal. So therefore, it's not really item. It's not like idas, which is by a condition or gitten that has, or even by a bezin, that they are making bikoyach that item, you are taking out money, or the condition is chal. So therefore, it could be even non-kosher item too. Question, could you please explain how prosbul works? What's the concept of the whole prosbul? The Torah writes a mitzvah esa that comes the 7th year, Shvias, Shmita, Shumoit Kobar Masha Yudo. You have to nullify all your loans which you gave for people. And then there's a Isser Loyigus Esre'ayi Vesuchiv. You're not permitted to try to collect your loans which went through Shemitah. So you have a mitzvah Esa to nullify the loan, and there is a Lois Esa to collect a loan which is in Shemitah, which went through Shemitah. What kind of loans gets nullified? Loans which is basically came the time that you should collect before Shemitah. If you gave a loan for 5 years, and in the middle of the 5 years there is a Shemitah, then the loan does not get nullified. Also, if a loan which is given over to the Bezdin, a person goes to the Bezdin and gives over his loans, and it says, over here you have all the notes of my loan, you collect my loan, then the loan does not get nullified. The same is also go if the Bezdin paskins for Reuven, you have to pay for Shimon X amount of money because you lost it in Torah, this money does not get nullified. Because anything which is given over for the Bezdin, it's not nullified. That's a klor halacha shechanorach in Mishpat Hilchas Avur, which Simon Samach Zayin, that's the halachas of Prusbel. Sif Chuf Ches, that if somebody gives over his notes for the Bezdin, then there is no nullification of his loans. Now Hillel Azuken saw that people stopped loaning money to poor people because they were afraid it will come Shemitah and all the loans will get null and void, it will get nullified. So the poor people had no choice from where to borrow money. And also the people who had money and they wanted to loan it and make money, not make money because it's ribas, but akapunam, wanted to help other people, stopped helping other people. So he made a thing which is called prosbul. Pros means takona, solution. Bull means wealthy people. Prosbul, a solution for the wealthy people. And he said, you don't have to take all your notes and give it over for the Bezdin. They should collect it. It shouldn't become nullified. If you write or you say for the Bezdin, all my loans which I gave for people, I'm giving over for you in order that I should be able to collect it on your behalf, that's enough. So that's the concept of Prisbel. If a person goes and says for the Bezdin or writes for the Bezdin that all my loans are giving over to you, then the loans does not get nullified and you could collect it whenever you want. Now, Pashta Shechanorach Sif Lamed Ches is that you should write it for the Bezdin and the Bezdin signs it. But the Ramur already writes that you don't have to write it, you could also say it for the Bezdin. And this is also what the Alter Rebbe writes in Shechanorach Mishpat Hilchas Avur Sif Lamed Ches, that you don't need to write it, you go and say for the Bezdin, I give over to you all my loans which I have, I should be able to collect it whenever I want. And that's the concept of a Prisbel. Question: can I make a shliach to collect, to make me a Prisbel? And also, could I make it at night? The question is, since we know that you cannot make it in Torah, a din you cannot make at night, is this considered a din? So you cannot make it at night, and is this considered a din that you cannot go do it through a shliach? And the answer is, you can make it at night, and you can also do it through a shliach, because it's not considered making a din, and therefore you can do it at night and also through a shliach. This is how the Marikash writes in Sif Lamed Aleph in Mishpat and Erech Lechem Sif Chuf. Also to note that a person which is in a lockdown, like in Australia or Thailand, which they are now in a heavy lockdown and they don't have a bezdin, they can either write a principle and send it to the bezdin, or they have another option to call the bezdin on the phone or through Zoom. You can also make b'shas chag, when you have no choice, you can make it through Zoom or a phone, the principle. And this is how it says in Shal Shiva Shai V'Tekohosi Chelik Dal Simarai Shlamates. Question: when is the proper time to make a principle? Now, the Torah says that the nullification of the loans is the end of the year of Shemitah, the end of the 7th year. That means this year, it is the end of Shnas Tufshin Pai Bais. When it comes the end of the day, Erev Rosh Hashanah, next year, the nullification of the loans is, then is the chal of the nullification of the loans. And so therefore, a lot of Rishonim hold that when do you make the principle? Next year, Erev Rosh Hashanah. The year Tofshim Pai Bais, Erev Rosh Hashanah Tofshim Pai Gimel, you'll make the principle. But the Shittas Harosh, the Balaiter, the Ban Yerichem, is that although that the nullification of the loan is the end of Tofshim Pai Bais, the Isser of collecting the loan starts already Rosh Hashanah Tofshim Pai Bais. That means the beginning of Shemitah. So this year, the beginning of Shemitah, Monday night, it starts the Isser to collect and ask from the loiva to pay the loan. It doesn't get nullified till the end of the Shemitah year, but you cannot ask it. The difference is, if it gets nullified and the loiva wants to pay you back, you say, I cannot take it because it's Shemitah. Meshamat ani. But in this, if it's not the end of the year and he wants to pay you back, you can take it back. But you cannot ask for the loan. This is Shittas Harosh in the Balaiter and Ban Yerichim. In the Alter Rebbe, in Shulchan Aruch, Paskins like the Rosh, that although the nullification is the end of Shemitah year, the Isser starts already in the beginning of the year, and therefore the Alter Rebbe holds that you should make a prosbul in the Erev Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah. That means this year, Monday in the morning, when it comes after Atur Sadurim, you should make a prosbul, because if not, you won't be able to ask the loiva to pay you back the loan. And this is how a lot of other poskim hold. The Alter Rebbe writes it in Sif Lamed Vov, and it's also Shal Shivs Maria Osat Chalik Baisim Akif Ein Tes, in a whole a lot of poskim, and therefore that's the reason today's day a lot of people are making a prosbul already this year, Erev Rosh Hashanah, because to be chayish of a Shittas Harosh. And we know the Rebbe writes like Kitasiches that it's a mitzvah lefarsam, it's a mitzvah to publicize the shitta of the Alter Rebbe, that he paskins like the Rosh, that the person should make a prosbul this year, Monday, Erev Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah, because to be chayiv of the Shittas Harosh. And therefore, today's day a lot of people are aware already of this shitta, and they are making a prosbul before Shemitah. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you again next week in Yetz Hashem. And good night. Aksiva v'chsim toiva, and Ashnas Baruch v'Yeshia, and Ashuna toiva Masika, and Hashem should also be meshamat all our choivas, like the Sforim writes, that if a person holds Shmitas Ksufim, so the Rabboni Shloim is also holds Shemitah, and he nullifies all our choivas which we have, that the whole year he loaned us Panosa, Bona Chaim, Zoina, and we owe him a lot, and we didn't pay him back. And if we keep Shmitas Ksufim, he will also keep Shmitas Ksufim and Shemitah, and he will nullify all our deeds which we have for him, and the Rebbeinu shall give us all a Shunu Toiv Mesiku.